Shore Lodge, a high-stakes psychological thriller, the Millersville series, written by Susan Specht Oram, narrated by Robin McAlpine. Shore Lodge, the beginning. Albert poured 2 glasses of champagne at the dining table to celebrate with a toast. The smell of baking pot roast wafted out of the kitchen. As we raised our glasses, I said, "The number 33 will bring us luck. We've spent a third of a century together." "I don't need more luck. I've got you and don't need anything else." With a gurgle, he crashed to the floor. My body turned cold. I rushed to his side to check his wrist. He didn't have a pulse. Telling myself to get a grip, I fumbled for my phone and called 911. Tears ran down my cheeks while I used my rusty CPR training and did chest compressions, pushing hard. "Live, damn you, live!" I scanned Albert's pasty face for signs of life. Nothing. No eyelid flickers, not a hint of his trademark warm smile. This can't be happening to us. Not today, on our anniversary. It's got to be a joke. As I pushed on his chest and waited for help to arrive, I remembered the pink piece of paper he handed me the week before. "If something were to happen to me, I don't want to be resuscitated. Don't revive me or let EMTs break my ribs. Let me go." As I thumped on his chest, my breath came in short puffs. "Wake up, Albert! Wake up!" I sat back and sobbed. By the time my dog nosed open the door, I was laughing hysterically. "I just wanted a few more minutes with him," I said to the dog. "It's our anniversary." Realizing how crazy that sounded, I began to giggle, feeling like I was losing control. Something snapped inside, and I hugged myself, burbling grief-struck gibberish before bursting into a torrent of tears. Albert couldn't die. Earlier that day, he'd been healthy and strong, loading paving stones into a customer's truck. Sirens pierced the air, coming closer. When 2 emergency medical technicians came through the front doorway, a keening wail came out of my mouth. They prepared to shock him, which was exactly what Albert wanted to avoid, and I came to as if waking from a dream. I jumped up, rummaged in a drawer, and pulled out the pink form, waving it in the air. "Stop. He has a DNR. He didn't want to be revived." 1. Day 1. Jacqueline. I'm getting my hair cut and wishing I could run out the door and go back in time to when everything made sense. 3 people sit in folding metal chairs 4 feet away. Brenda charges $15 for a trim for women and $12 for men, so she's in demand in our small town. My friends and my son go to Brenda, but my daughter, Rose, who's flipping through a People magazine while her son buzzes around the too small room pretending he's an airplane, has her long blonde hair cut and colored in Seattle, where she lives, 2 hours south. "Sorry I was late," I say. I lost track of what day it was. My daughter eyes me with concern. She and her brother have been doing that since their dad died 8 months ago. I'm a delicate plant under glaring grow lights. Brenda trims split ends off my long black hair. I once took pride in my glossy hair, brushing it for 7 minutes each night, but now it's dull and limp. I'm a new person and not for the better. Brenda says, "I'm booked solid, Jacqueline, but people don't mind waiting after what you've gone through." Sandy, who works at the drugstore, and her husband Frank, a high school history teacher, nod and look anywhere but at me. In our town, we all know each other and keep track of how everyone's doing. They shop at our garden store and laughed at my husband's jokes. Brenda says, "You got a lot on your mind, I'm sure." That's an understatement. While I've been sticking to my routine and going to work, inside, I'm wilting. I had a meltdown the night my husband died, and I haven't been the same since. A new hush puts me on edge in my house, making me peer around corners. Often, my son Dusty is standing in the kitchen or dining room, and I didn't hear him come in. He runs a construction company and knows how to work with tools, but could be better at managing his money. "You're young," Brenda says. "You'll heal fast." I blink with surprise. Loss isn't something bitter you put in a magic blender and push a button to make into a pleasant-tasting smoothie. She means well, as do others when they say, "At least you didn't suffer long," or "Be grateful for the time you had together." People slow to gawk at a car crash, but no one wants to rubberneck at grief. Brenda pats my shoulder and the plastic drape crinkles. You'll bounce back. You're strong. Albert always said I was tough because I can lift a 60-pound bag of peat moss and toss it in the back of a truck with no problem at all. I carry a shovel like it's a ballpoint pen. My body may be strong, but my mind is muddled, making banking errors and sending me backing into cars for the first time in my life. My grandson opens and closes the door, creak, bang, making my head ache. I glance at my daughter, who's in town over Max's spring break. She hasn't noticed, so I say, Max, stop that and sit down. We won't be much longer. He plunks down on a chair and looks out the window at a gravel parking lot, drawing with his finger on the glass. He's a great kid, but needs to see his dad more. When Rose and her husband divorced last year, she had to find a job despite a gap in her resume from being a full-time mom. She finally landed a position as an administrative assistant, and her smile of pride reminds me of when I taught her and my son how to start an outboard engine and steer my dad's 16-foot skiff across Cedar Channel, navigating swift currents of 6 to 8 knots. Brenda says, "You'll find a way to start over." I wince, recalling my recent missteps, like when I watered the flowers outside one morning and went in, picking a chunk of gravel from the sole of my sneaker and putting it down the disposal. When I turned on the disposal to grind up eggshells after a breakfast of eggs and toast, the metal teeth rattled, much like how I feel these days. I've made some mistakes since Albert died. Last week, I overdrew the store's checking account and payments to the wholesale nursery, and employee paychecks bounced. By the time Lucy at Mountainside Bank called, the NSF charges were as deep as 20 yards of topsoil. I've been scolding myself about it ever since. I miss Albert in a way no one else could understand. It's not fair. A heart stops beating when you want it to go on forever. I've loved Albert since high school when we both worked at Werner's garden store. After the kids were grown, evenings were for fun. We'd leave any talk about business under the maple tree out front and play cards with Mary and Fred, have my friend Bernice over, or go to the Duchess and dance. Rose closes the magazine. My mom clicked on one of those email scams. Good grief. Rose might as well get a megaphone and tell the whole town my personal business. How mortifying. I glare at her, wishing I hadn't told her about the hassle of getting replacement credit cards. Brenda snips at my hair. Hard to tell scams from the real thing. Thank you, Brenda, for defending me. She gave her credit card information and her credit cards got hacked. Brenda and the chair watchers scrutinize me with raised eyebrows. For a distraction, I focus on my feet and move them in tiny circles. I wear ankle-length blue and green socks every day, no matter what the weather, and khaki shorts. It started one day when I got dressed in the dark. My employees say, ask the woman who's wearing khaki shorts and mismatched socks. She knows the most about plants. Brenda peers at my head. Did you know you have a bad case of dandruff? As the others stare at me, I'm so embarrassed. I want to melt into a puddle and evaporate. I've ignored this new aspect of my life and hoped it'd go away. Thanks, Brenda, for pointing it out in a loud voice so everyone can hear. What's dandruff? Max says. Flakes on your scalp, Brenda says. Comes off like little white snowflakes. My grandson makes a face and goes to the door, jiggling the knob. Can we go? Rose gets up. Did you remember your purse so you can pay? I suppress a groan. I'm fine on my own. I really am. My kids need to stop worrying about me. Although I want to shout, I manage to say in an even voice, yes. Rose stops on the threshold. Do you have cash? I motion with my hands, shooing her out the door. I'll see you outside. Brenda says, go home and scrub your scalp with a hairbrush under running water to loosen the dandruff, then wash your hair with Dawn dishwashing detergent. I snort at her strange suggestion. Stress can cause dandruff. You have been under a lot of stress. My face is hot enough to heat a greenhouse. No one knows stress like I do, considering what I found out after Albert died. The tsunami alert siren goes off with a recorded warning to follow escape routes in the event of a tsunami. It must be noon on Saturday. I rip the plastic drape from my neck, sending black hairs flying, slap a $20 bill on the counter, and run for the safety of my yellow bungalow. 2. Rose. Rose and her son Max sat in the front seat as her younger brother drove his dented pickup off the ferry onto Cedar Island. Dusty had texted last week that Mom needed to move, so Rose came up from Seattle to tour the place he'd picked. "You know who needs help," Dusty said. Max said, "Me? With homework?" Rose ruffled her son's dark hair. "No, bud, we're not talking about you." She turned to Dusty. "Let's wait till we get to the lodge." Dusty bumped down a gravel road and stopped at an older 2-story stucco building where all the windows and doors were closed. The manicured lawn and trimmed shrubs made for a peaceful scene, but it was all too perfect. Her mother wouldn't want to live here. Rose said, "Max, why don't you check out the meadow before we go in? I need to talk with Uncle Dusty." "Okay." The three of them got out, and Max raced off into the meadow's tall grass. Rose picked at a cuticle. "I admit I haven't seen Mom every day like you have, but making her move strikes me as overreacting. She's sad as all." Dusty said, "Dr. Taft diagnosed her with severe depression, but she won't take medication. She's not safe living by herself. I've seen blackened pots on her stovetop. She loves her house, but she could burn the place down." Rose grimaced. "We can't let that happen." When she'd stopped to see her mother after getting into town last night, Jacqueline was in the kitchen running water over a pan of charred popcorn kernels. Rose wrinkled her nose at the smell of scorched cooking oil and turned the fan on over the stove. Max said, "It stinks." He opened the back door and ran outside. Resting a hand on her mom's shoulder, Rose said, "What happened?" "I was in the bathroom and lost track of time." Now Rose nodded. Her brother was right. Last week he said he needed Rose's input on an urgent matter. Mom needed to move. Dusty said, "Then she blamed a fender bender in the grocery store parking lot on the other driver, and she's bounced checks. She's lost her grip." Rose scuffed a sneaker on the gravel. Her once-a-week Sunday afternoon calls with Jacqueline were brief before Rose went to check on Max, start a load of laundry, or cook dinner. "We could have someone come in to help her." Dusty scratched his freckled cheek. "You and Max could live with her." She shuddered, imagining giving up her job drafting press releases and updating the website at a biotechnology company. She crossed her arms, inhaling sea air coming off the channel. She frowned. "I can't. I'd violate my parenting agreement. I have to stay in Seattle." "Are you sure about this place?" "I've toured other places, but Mom wouldn't like them. One needed a remodel and a new roof. Another smelled like death when I walked in the door. This place is best." "She won't want to leave her friends." "It's only a mile as the crow flies. They can take the ferry." Rose pursed her lips. "But the ferry stops running at 9 at night, so she couldn't have her late-night parties, laughing until midnight with Uncle Fred, Aunt Mary, and Bernice. She loves those." "Not anymore. She keeps to herself these days." "Let's hire someone to live with her if she's as confused as you say she is." Dusty shook his head. "I'd have to manage the caregiver, which I don't have time for. What if they didn't show up? Bottom line is, she isn't safe at home." "You need to move in with her," she said. "Man up. Show you care." His mouth dropped open. "I have my own place. A grown man living with his mother? I'd be laughed out of the tavern." She raised her eyebrows. Her little brother had to act like an adult for once and help their mom, giving back for all the money he'd taken from her parents over the years to fund his construction company. "I can't watch over her," Dusty said, sounding frustrated. "I've got a business to run. I've been taking her to doctor's appointments and missing time with my buddies at the Stag." Rose patted his shoulder. "I appreciate all you've done for Mom." She eyed the 2-story stucco building with ivy vines growing up the sides. A discreet sign hung over the entry door. "Welcome to Shore Lodge." It seemed innocuous enough and didn't scream psychiatric facility. The setting was breathtaking. Beyond the manicured grounds was a meadow and the sparkling water of Cedar Channel. "Shore Lodge is totally remodeled," Dusty said. "She'd make friends here." Rose nodded. Her mother was outgoing, or she'd been that way until Dad died. While Max ran through the meadow, Rose thought back to all her brother had done to help Jacqueline in the last 8 months. He'd sorted the mail and paid bills. Despite niggling doubts, she decided to trust his judgment. Okay, let's get Max and go in. Is it expensive? Costs a fair amount, but she's got money. We'll talk it up, say it's a grief retreat center with a view of a meadow where she can rest. She'll like that the channel is just over there. She loves being near the water. He pointed south. Rose called Max to get his attention and started for the front door. Mom's not a retreat-type person, though. I don't think she'll want to be closed inside. It doesn't matter what she wants. She can't live alone anymore. But you haven't seen her enough to know that. The administrator called yesterday to say a room opened up on the first floor. He's holding it for Mom for 3 days. Rose whistled. It's a huge decision and a radical move. It is, but Dr. Taft voiced concerns about Mom's mental health. A physician at Shore Lodge will evaluate her to determine if she needs full-time care. I've briefed him about her nervous breakdown after Dad died, so he's prepared. Rose swallowed hard. I'll go along with you, but I wish Dad was still alive. If he was, we wouldn't be here or having this discussion. Dusty blinked, looking down. Me too. He believed in me, told me if I worked hard enough, I'd build a subdivision one day. Watch me, Max said. When he did a handstand, legs in the air, Rose clapped. See how long you can hold it. She turned to her brother. We have to get her to agree to go to the lodge. That's the humane way to do it. We'll try, but as a backup while you were in Seattle, Dusty said in a quiet voice. I asked her to give me power of attorney over her medical decisions and financial affairs in case she was out of town if something came up at the store. She said it was a good idea and drew up the paperwork, so I'll use that if I have to. When Mom gets better, she can come home. This will be temporary. Dusty cocked his head. Not likely from what I've seen. We need to convince her to come here, she said. I'm good at persuading people to do things, she chuckled. Remember when you were little and I talked you into stealing a pack of bubble gum? Jacqueline had caught him slipping it into her purse, slapped his hand, and made him apologize to the manager. Dusty hadn't forgiven her for the incident yet. He liked to hold a grudge. Maybe it's payback time, he said, staring at Shore Lodge. She rolled her eyes. Come on, it was only in fun. Let's go in and see the place. Opening the front door, her footsteps echoed in the vestibule. Although the lobby featured rustic furniture and local artwork, it was cold and unwelcoming. With a shiver, she hoped they were making the right decision. 3. Day 2. Dusty. Dusty climbed out of his Dodge pickup in the morning at a construction site where he was building a house for 2 professional trombone players and music teachers in their late 40s. He liked the women and thought they were friendly, but he bristled at how they scrutinized each line item. The project was on schedule and on budget so far, and the buyers were riding him hard to keep it that way. Hammers echoed from the 3-bedroom Rambler. Striding in steel-toed work boots, he nodded at the new double-hung white vinyl windows with the manufacturer's stickers. Signs of progress meant more invoices to pay, and his bank account was close to being overdrawn. Inside, country western music blared from a portable radio on a plywood floor. The smell of sweat, sawdust, and lumber filled the air while a crew of muscled men in jeans and T-shirts pounded 2x4s into place. He'd started working in construction after high school, pushing wheelbarrows through thick mud on rainy days. He'd been happy to help haul 2x4s and pick up garbage because he was awestruck at how a project began on a blueprint and ended up as a solid structure. Now, with his own company, he was creating a permanent piece of art with each home he built. He frowned. His mom acted like he was irresponsible with money, but she didn't understand what it was like to run a construction company. He had to pay suppliers, schedule inspections, and build a house while owners and bankers breathed down his neck. He'd given up on her ever understanding how good he was at his job. He turned to the framing crew foreman, a man in his 40s with brown hair back in a ponytail. It's looking good. Armando wiped sweat from his brow. When we finish framing, I need to be paid in 30 days, not 90 like you did after the last job. I gotta pay my guys. Dusty rubbed his cheek, a nervous gesture he'd started when kids teased him in the 1st grade about his ginger freckles. But he'd grown, and now that he was taller than most people, no one pushed him around. Glancing at the framing foreman, he broke out in a sweat. He had less than $100 in the bank. On his metal desk at the office was a stack of unpaid invoices. He didn't want word getting around that he was broke. If it did, no one would work for him, and he couldn't build his dream project, a subdivision on a hill above town. He'd drawn up plans for years with his dad, scribbling on napkins and paper plates. He'd named Stone Estates in his father's honor and earned his mother's respect as a businessman. At 30, he was building one house at a time instead of a housing development. Buyers wouldn't pay enough to give him more than a 5% profit, the economy tanked, and competition undercut his prices. Everyone was out to get him. He said to the framing foreman, "That's workable. I've got money coming in from another job, then I'll be on Easy Street." When Armando raised his eyebrows in a silent question, Dusty clapped him on the back and said, "Don't worry, I'm good for it." 4. Jacqueline. When I unlock the store's front door, Bill, a gray-haired man with a scraggly beard whose wife just died, shuffles in. His shoulders are stooped and he has dark circles under his eyes. He and his wife used to come in often to buy flowers for their fenced-off patio and deer-resistant plants for their yard. Give a deer a half hour and they'll nibble a geranium down to the stem. That's how I ate a Fran's Park bar back when Albert was alive. He'd order a box of the gold-wrapped chocolate bars for me as a treat, and I appreciated each bite of the chewy caramel, roasted peanuts, and chocolate. I still have one in my office desk drawer. It's untouched because my taste buds have changed. Everything tastes like dust. Bill sets a hanging basket of fuchsias with purple and magenta blossoms on the checkout counter. He acts as if he's on autopilot, completing tasks he shared with his wife. I understand that behavior because I've been clinging to my schedule at the store like it's a life raft keeping me afloat. As I ring up the fuchsia plant, I say, "I'm so sorry about Lila." He nods. Recalling my sleepless nights, I say, "You getting any sleep?" My mind won't rest, going over what we could have done differently. His wife, Lila, refused treatment when her breast cancer returned, saying she cared more about quality of life and didn't want to go through chemo again. Bill was torn up, but it was her choice. "You supported her decision," I say. "That's what she wanted." I swallow hard, thinking of my husband's heart attack. "How about you? Getting any shut-eye?" I'm awake most nights. If I drift off to sleep, I wake wondering why he isn't next to me. Nights are hardest. Bill wipes his eyes and stares at a bag of potting soil. I didn't want to sharpen his pain, so I ended our Death Cafe discussion. It's wonderful to be around those who can understand, but the bog of mutually shared grief can get soft and treacherous mighty fast. He looks like it's been a long time since he cracked a smile, so I take a chance and say, "Want to hear a corny bad joke?" He brightens. "Fire away." "Why did the seagulls sit on the log?" He thinks for a bit. "I don't know. Why did the seagulls sit on the log?" "Because it was whale watching." As he groans and we chuckle, my manager, Carolyn, shows up at the checkout counter with a determined look on her face. She's middle-aged, always on time, and wears her long brown hair in a single braid down her back. She knows her plants and is a valuable resource when I'm running errands, doing payroll, or while I was making memorial service arrangements. I push the fuchsia over to Bill's side of the counter. "Deer will gobble that up like dessert, so keep it on your enclosed patio." He nods. "I will. Bye, Jacqueline. Carolyn." As he leaves, I say to Carolyn, "Good morning, sunshine." "Can we talk later?" she says, looking me in the eye. I hope this isn't about asking for a raise. She's been dropping hints and saying after years of working here she should be paid more, but I can't afford it. Customers are milling in the aisles in our typical April pattern of higher traffic and sales. "Sure thing, I'll find you when things slow down." She nods, but something's off. It would be a disaster if she quit. I take a deep breath and think, bring it on, baby. I can handle anything life dishes out after crossing the channel of death. The store represents my past and my future. Working at the store, I feel Albert nearby, as if he's out of sight watering the oregano and basil plants. I'm proud of the business we built. After we married, Mr. Werner, the owner and founder, came up to us at lunch one day while we were sitting with sack lunches out back by the trees for sale. I'll never forget the peppery scent of the poplars swishing in the wind when he said he wanted to retire and sell the business to us. A nice young couple who loved soil under their fingertips as much as he did and with dreams in our eyes. "Oh, no," a woman in a plaid shirt with matching shorts says. A bag of topsoil burst open when she was moving it onto a cart in the uncovered area of the store. "I'll help you," I say, nodding to Carolyn and leaving the checkout counter to her. I move the ripped bag aside, heft a new one into the customer's cart, and send her on her way while I sweep up soil. It's important to set a good example and chip in doing the dirty work. A breeze wafts past and I smile. I like working outdoors where the wind and rain are my companions. Freedom is important to me because when I was about 8, playing in a vacant lot, a tunnel under a dirt mound caved in on me. Flat on my stomach, soil weighing me down, I thought I was going to die, but reminded myself I was most of the way through. Clawing my way out, I gasped for air and vowed never to be trapped again. When I set the broom against the wall, my blue t-shirt with a Werner's white logo and shorts are smudged with dirt. Carolyn sidles over and said, "I hope this isn't a bad time to bring this up, but have you considered what I said about buying the store?" I stare at her, considering how to respond. I'd forgotten she mentioned she'd like to buy it, which concerns me. Carolyn says, "I don't want to rush you into making a decision, but I do need to know where you stand." "Hold on a minute," I say. I can't tell her, but I have to keep the store to make back the money Albert gave away. Like the live edge wood counter he built for the cash register, he was sturdy and there for me to lean on, or so I thought at the time. A few days before he died, I went into Albert's office where he was staring at a spreadsheet on his laptop. I cleared my throat and his computer screen went blank. As he swiveled around, guilt flashed across his face. I sensed he was covering something up. "What are you up to?" He wouldn't look at me, which was unlike him. "Getting ready for taxes." His reply was suspicious since I'm the one who prepares the taxes. Albert was in charge of personnel. Because he was the best man I knew, I let it go. But after he died, I sat with my laptop at the dining table checking our bank accounts. My mouth dropped open as I stared at our savings account balance. Money was missing. Lots of it. Without telling me, Albert wrote checks to our son totaling $62,000, decimating the savings account. For years, I'd said we had to stop helping Dusty. We couldn't afford it. He needed to learn how to handle money. But Albert wanted Dusty to pursue his dreams and said he needed our help to get ahead. When I discovered the missing money, I pounded the table. Albert lied to me and went behind my back. I wish I could have it out with him and tell him how wrong he was to make our son dependent on us. What hurt even more was when medical bills arrived after he died. Opening a thick envelope from Everett Cardiology an hour south of us, I gasped. Albert had met with an out-of-network cardiologist and had tests I didn't know about. Ripping the papers in half, I swore. Carolyn scuffs a sneaker on the cement floor, bringing me back to the present. My emotional and financial reasons are too private to discuss, but I must keep the store. My sanity hinges on coming here each day. I don't plan on selling this place for many years to come. When she looks deflated, I add, "I'm sorry to disappoint you, and I appreciate all your hard work and your positive attitude. You're like a sunflower in the fall, watching over us and making us all happy." Carolyn beams like it's the best compliment she's ever heard. But as she walks away, I worry she might quit and go elsewhere to find what she wants. 5. Jacqueline. At home, I settle into a yellow upholstered armchair and rub Buddy's ears. We've had 5 wonderful beagle years together, and he's the best dog in the world. Albert and I rescued him from the local shelter. With Albert gone, the two of us are tighter than ever. I open my laptop to read a new book by J.A. Jantz. As I navigate to the library site and read the first page, Buddy barks. The front door opens and my kids walk in. I close the laptop because family's more important than a best-selling book. Rose's smile looks forced as she hugs me. Her jeans are tight and fit her tall figure, as does her tailored blouse. I'm amazed she can bend over in those pants. My son looks comfortable in a flannel shirt, jeans, and a ball cap. Mom, I wish my son would take off his muddy work boots and put them by the door. I've asked him to remove his shoes, but he forgets, leaving clumps of dirt in my carpet. At times, I've come upon him riffling through drawers when I didn't know he was in the house, and I squeal. My heart pounds, but he laughs and says I'm too jumpy. But Dusty came to the rescue when he saw his dad's medical bills. He called and asked for a reduction as a charity case for a widow. When we got the good news that he'd succeeded, we slapped high fives and whooped and hollered. After that, I trusted him. When he asked me to give him power of attorney in case anything happened when I was out of town, I drew up the papers with my friend Fred and signed them. Grandma, Max says, wrapping his arms around my waist, I like your house. I squeeze him until he pulls away and runs outside with Buddy. This house is my sanctuary. Albert and I bought it when I was pregnant with Rose, and we raised our kids here. People might not guess it when they see me, but I'm not the extroverted hostess I used to be. I'm a hermit crab, reading alone in the evenings. I smile, thinking back to parties Albert and I threw, lasting until midnight when we shooed people out the door because we had to work early the next morning. Someday I'll have friends over again, but now I feel like a vacuum sucked up all my energy. I have nothing left to give. I'm a creek run dry. I hug my son's broad back, marveling at how he sprang up to being taller than his dad or me. He leans over Rose, who is sitting in the armchair. She flips back her long blonde highlighted hair. Mom, we found a great place for you. Shore Lodge on Cedar Island is a grief retreat center. You could stay there a few days and come back a new person. My kids may want the best for me, but I'm not going anywhere. Like tendrils of ivy creeping up a tree, I have a growing realization that I've been grieving long enough. It's time to find a new life of my own. I haven't heard of it. Buddy and I are fine hanging out here together. Rose gives me big brown doe eyes like she does when she wants something. We really think you'd like it. Because my kids are looking at me with such concern, I sit and ask questions. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad after all. How many rooms does it have? 14, Dusty says with a smile. Each is furnished with rustic timber furniture. You'd like it. He sounds like an ad for the place. He normally only gushes like this about building materials and power tools. The lodge is on Cedar Island looking over a meadow, Rose says. You wouldn't be bothered by work concerns while you're there, Dusty says, nodding in an encouraging way, like a salesman closing an important deal. And you'd be in a beautiful setting. It sounds peaceful, his sister says with a sigh, leaning back like she's tired. Lonely exhaustion is in my widow's bones, but hers must be of the parenting variety from being on call night and day. Why don't you leave Max with me, I say. We can have a sleepover instead for a few nights. It'll be good for both of us. Rose shakes her head. Thanks, but he's playing with Chris's son and having a great time. About Shore Lodge, what do you think? Doesn't it sound good? She ran over my great offer as a grandmother like roadkill, but at least I tried. I wonder if I did something wrong as a mother for her to keep me at arm's length. Perhaps I'm imagining it, though, and grief has made me paranoid. She opens her arms wide. The Channel breeze brings sea air that'll invigorate you. Delicious meals will be cooked for you. You can take naps without work to worry about. I bet you'll sleep better there than at home. Shore Lodge is sounding better, but I haven't heard anyone in town talking about it. How long has it been open? About a year, Dusty says. They just finished an extensive remodel on an older building. Although it sounds appealing, I shake my head. I can't. I have to work. You could use a break, Dusty says, rubbing his freckled cheek. You're overworked. I bet Dad would want you to do that. His brown eyes look concerned. Reminded of my husband, I blot my eyes with a tissue. If I let tears flow, I'll turn into Snoqualmie Falls. Dusty's like a dog with a bone when he gets an idea, gnawing and not giving up. And he has a good point. I could use a rest. Maybe it'll clear my mind. I'll get my energy back. If I humor my kids, they'll stop worrying so much about me. You could try it and see how you like it, Rose says. I tap my lips, considering. Although they're convinced this will be good for me, an instinct tells me to stay home. Don't go. But I brush it off and smile, imagining walking on Cedar Island's beaches and breathing fresh air wafting from the channel. Dusty says, "We think you need to take a break from all your stress." They're as united as a twin pack of popsicles, so I shrug and say, "Why not? It can't hurt. I'll go for 2 nights, then I've got to get back to the store and Buddy." Dusty flashes a wide smile featuring his teeth. He says in a low, gentle voice, "Starting tomorrow?" Rose bites her lip. She's been tense since she came to town, frowning at my dishes in the sink. My guess is working and raising my grandson is putting too much pressure on her. She's staying at a high school friend's house while she's here, so Max has someone to play with, which hurt my feelings. I need more life in this house. Although stubborn is my middle name, I do want to please my kids. Sure, I could go tomorrow, if they have an opening with a meadow view room. I reach for my phone to call the lodge, but Dusty takes out his cell and beats me to it. "Hello, this is Dusty Stone. My mother, Jacqueline Stone, would like to stay at your facility." "Yes, for a week." I wave my hands. "Not for a week, for 2 nights. And I want a view of the meadow. I don't want to look at a parking lot." "Sorry," he says, nodding to me. "She'd like to stay 2 nights in a room with a view of the meadow. Do you have a room available tomorrow or Tuesday?" He listens. "Thank you, I'll tell her." He hangs up. "Tomorrow it is." I swallow, wondering what I've gotten myself into. I don't want to leave the rhythm of my long work days, which soothe me and remind me of when my husband was alive. Shore Lodge could be a woo-woo type place with incense and chanting, or it might be an ultra-hip retreat center serving organic food with mandatory meditation sessions. I won't put up with anything required. I know what I want to do and when I'll do it. 6. Day 3. Jacqueline. When my kids pick me up to go to Shore Lodge in the morning, rain spatters against the windshield and the wiper blades squeal. In the middle seat, I'm flanked by Dusty on my left and Rose on my right, who smells like a waterfall. Rose left Max with a friend, and Dusty will pick Buddy up at my place when he gets back. Dusty insisted on driving me both ways and said he and Rose wanted to see the place. As I turn the heater up to full blast, someone in a golf cart comes towards us, and I think about buying one. Buddy and I could go to work that way with the wind ruffling our hair. It's a short trip, 1.5 miles to the store. Dusty gets in line for the small ferry that scuttles back and forth across the channel. A Subaru station wagon in front of us has a bumper sticker, "Subaru, not just for lesbians anymore." Bernice would like that one. A VW van in line is painted with flowers in keeping with the island's hippie theme. In front of that is a shiny black sedan. All kinds of people live on Cedar Island, sailors, artists, and business owners, as well as wealthy people from out of state who live in waterfront homes 6 months a year during our glorious summers. "Let's open the windows," I say, "for fresh air." Dusty rolls his window down a few inches. Rose rolls down the window and zips up her fleece jacket. "It's chilly." I take a deep breath of Salish sea air to calm myself, oddly nervous about leaving town. A ferry worker in a neon yellow safety vest comes over. She's about 60 years old and smiling like she's pleased with her job. The county pays well, so I don't blame her. "That'll be $18. When Dusty starts to pay, I pull out my credit card and hand it over. It's on me. The 28-car ferry pulls up to the dock and cars, trucks, and a van come off, followed by a bicyclist. After a few minutes, a ferry worker motions for us to move ahead. We follow behind and go clunk, clunk down an incline and stop. Climbing out of the truck, I pull up my hood as rain spits. Wet weather doesn't bother me. If you don't do it in the rain, you don't do it at all. The deck of the boat vibrates under my feet. As the ferry leaves the dock, water churns and froths. On a boat, my pulse slows, bringing me back to my childhood when my parents and I would hop in our skiff, start the engine, and take off. I'd come back with flushed cheeks from the wind, proud of how I'd steered through swift currents. Getting back in the truck, I say, This reminds me of when we used to go boating together. Dusty and Rose nod without enthusiasm. Still reminiscing, I say, we'd take you out and I'd teach you all I knew while your dad put his feet up and enjoyed the ride. They smile. Encouraged, I say, we taught you to respect the water because the sea not only gives joy. Dusty finishes my thought by saying, but it can take lives. I tilt my head. Have I been repeating myself? You have, my son says, but you're going through a difficult time. My face heats with embarrassment. I burrow into my sheepskin jacket and shut my mouth, hoping I haven't turned into a nattering ninny who no one wants to be around. If I could cast a line for a wish, other than bringing my husband back, it would be to have my full mental faculties that fled 8 months ago. Last month, when I checked in for my appointment with Dr. Taft, my mind went blank. I stared at the receptionist, dredging my memory for my first and last name. Ma'am? She said. Hold on, it'll come to me, I said. My son cleared his throat. Stone, he said. Jacqueline Stone. Black smoke billows out of a vent while the ferry strains against the current, turning almost parallel to land as we approach a wooden dock. With a bump, the boat nudges the dock and a ramp comes down. Dusty drives off the ferry and goes right, taking a narrow 2-lane road along the shoreline. He turns left on a gravel road, going past a meadow bordered by tall trees, and stops at a white stucco 2-story building. Thick ivy vines grow up the side and crisscross in a geometric pattern. Up on the second floor, a red-headed woman peers out a window. Her face is pale and her mouth is open. Something about her makes me uneasy. I grab my small duffel and string my purse crossways over my shoulders as if I'm going into a dangerous drug-dealing part of downtown Seattle at 3rd and Pine. I'm eager and on edge, like I'm setting off on an expedition. I'll feel better when I'm settled in, reading a book and drinking coffee, looking over the gorgeous meadow. I might take a walk on a nearby beach where I spotted a small wooden dock with several boats tied up. I've been too exhausted to do anything but work, and now I'll let the staff pamper me. Maybe they'll have soaking tubs and deep tissue massages. After 3 days, my friends won't recognize me. I'll be so relaxed. Dusty and Rose trail behind, murmuring to each other, so I open the sturdy front door and stop at a receptionist desk. The lobby has Pacific Northwest timber furniture and gray carpet. Paintings of salmon, deer, and beach scenes hang on white walls. A woman in her 40s with a gentle smile and soft eyes steps out from behind a desk. She greets me and shakes my hand. You must be Ms. Stone. I'll show you to your room. Shouldn't I pay first? There'll be time for that later. Let's get you settled in. She guides me down a hall past closed doors. Here you are, room 6 with a meadow view, like you requested. I stop in the doorway and my duffel drops to the floor as I survey the room. A queen-size bed with a timber frame is welcoming. An upholstered armchair looks inviting. Outside, tall meadow grass sways in a breeze. I can almost see Cedar Channel in the distance, a soothing view to start me on my healing journey. 7. Jacqueline. When I turn around, the middle-aged woman from the receptionist desk is gone, as is my son. His absence strikes me as odd because I assumed he'd want to see my room. Rose's brow is furrowed and she's leaning against the door jamb. She looks concerned, so I say to her, "The room looks fine, don't you think?" "It does. It's a pretty setting and the room looks clean." I raise an eyebrow. She sounds stilted and stiff, like she's holding something back. Under normal circumstances, she'd be making wisecracks about the rustic furniture and saying it's not for everyone. Hoping to connect with her, I say, "Looks like the room we stayed in at Timberline Lodge, doesn't it? When you and Dusty were young? That was a long time ago." "I hope this place will help you." She pats my back like I'm her child and our roles have reversed. "I hope you'll go to their grief support group." "I might." "You should," she says, holding my elbow like she's walking me across the street. I glance around for my son. "Where's Dusty?" She points across the hall to a closed door. "He's in with the person running the place, Dr. Henderson. He said he wanted to go over details and he'd be back soon. Let's put your toiletries in the bathroom while we wait. I'm the one staying here. I'll go talk to the person. Rose shakes her head. He wanted to make it easier on you. Toothpaste and toothbrush in the bathroom? I start for the door. I'll be right back. She rests a hand on my shoulder. Let's give them a few more minutes. Her eyes dart toward the hallway. To finish up. Her attempt to stop me from interrupting my son talking with the administrator puzzles me. Wondering why she's acting like that, I stride past her and knock on a door marked Dr. Henderson. A goateed man in his 50s with white bushy eyebrows opens the door and says, Mrs. Stone, is that correct? I start, surprised he knows my name. Yes, that's correct. Nice to meet you. He extends a long-fingered hand. As we shake, Dr. Henderson's hand is as cool as a January morning, and a shiver runs up my spine. I nod to Dusty, who's sitting in a brown leather armchair opposite a large wooden desk. His eyebrows shoot up, and a furtive look in his eyes remind me of the time I caught him riding a stolen bicycle in 9th grade. He runs the back of a hand across his lips as if wiping away his surprised expression. I was just talking with Dr. Henderson. The room is charged with tension. Hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. A thought flashes past as I wonder why my son wanted to talk with the administrator alone. What were you two talking about? Dr. Henderson says, Ms. Stone, I've enjoyed chatting with your son about our facility. Why don't you come in for a moment? Dusty avoids meeting my gaze as he gets out of the chair and leaves. I take a seat. I'm glad you're here, Dr. Henderson says, sitting behind the desk. Welcome. We have a full array of support services for you. Now, I'd like to ask a sensitive question. How would you say your mental health has been in the past few months? I gulp. I'm a mess because I can't argue with a dead person. The bank account never lies, but my husband did, giving Dusty money like an ATM. No wonder I'm a stew of anger, frustration, and confusion. Not great, I say with a shrug. He sits, waiting for more, hands folded on the desk. To be honest, I've been really low. My doctor says I'm depressed. My husband was my true love, the father of my children. I wipe a tear from my eye. He nods. I understand. That must be very difficult. Would you say you've had moments where you weren't sure where you were? I've had fuzzy moments. Wouldn't anyone in this situation? Have you considered admitting yourself to a facility because you're depressed? I spring from the chair. I haven't considered that. I just need a few days to rest and then I'll be back to my old self. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll go back to my room and see my kids off. He opens the door. We hope you enjoy your stay. At the receptionist's desk, I say, could I get a bedside lamp in my room? I like to read in the evenings in bed. I'll see what we can do. She places a call. The guest in room 6 would like a light for the bedside table? Yes, room 6. Thank you, I say. Have you seen my kids? Are they here somewhere? She shakes her head. They wanted you to settle in and said they'd see you later. It's odd for them to scuttle off without saying goodbye. My stomach growls, distracting me. When is lunch served? I'd like to eat in my room if that's all right. Noon, and that's fine. Do you have any dietary restrictions? Anything's fine. Walking into the guest room, my mouth drops open. A portrait of Albert, the kids commissioned as a birthday gift for him, hangs above a wooden dresser. Goosebumps prick my skin. My kids may have thought it would make me feel at home, but it gives me the creeps. I'll only be here 2 nights. I've never liked this oil painting because it made my husband look too serious and much older than his youthful spirit. The green background makes me feel sick. His brown eyes are watching me, so I turn my back on him. A prickling sensation creeps up my spine as if Albert's gaze is burning a hole in my back. I take the painting off the hook and set it on the floor, turned to the wall. That's better. Someone knocks on the door. A man says, "Maintenance, we have a lamp for you." Come in. A tall, big-boned man in a black t-shirt with a Shore Lodge white logo and jeans carries in a bedside lamp and plugs it in while a second young man looks on. The room smells like Irish Spring soap now that they're in it. The tall man says, "You're all set," in a voice that sounds like he's sucked on a helium balloon. His high-pitched voice doesn't match his body, but he doesn't seem to care. His shorter sidekick nods like a bobblehead figure. "Thanks." After they leave, I glance around the room. I don't see a television, which is fine. I'm here to rest. Outside, meadow grass ripples in a breeze. Branches on evergreen trees dance in the wind. The rain let up, and low-hanging clouds touch the treetops. Plunking down in the armchair, I kick off my shoes, put my stocking feet up on the windowsill, and call my friend Bernice for a chat. She runs Millersville Escrow, the only one in town, and she's always swamped, so I won't take much of her time. "Bernice, do you have a minute?" She muffles the phone and tells someone she'll be right with them. "What's up, Buttercup?" Picturing her warm, wide smile, I sit back and relax. I'm at Shore Lodge on Cedar Island, taking a few days to rest and get back to myself. I'm already feeling better. When she pauses, I think she must be distracted by something at work, but she says in a quiet voice, "Jacqueline, I don't think you should be there." "It's a retreat center. My kids wanted me to come here." "I think it's a bit different than that. I've heard it's a secure psychiatric facility. Is it possible your kids might have tricked you into going there?" I narrow my eyes. They wouldn't do that. It's got to be a retreat center. They have grief support group meetings. Her silence speaks 1,000 words of caution, but my kids wouldn't steer me wrong. When I hang up, I'll check the place out on my phone. I didn't have time to do that last night, what with making arrangements for Carolyn to cover my shifts at the store and packing to get ready. "Lunch delivery," a woman says in the hallway, knocking at the door. When I open it, a young woman wearing pink-framed glasses comes in carrying a wooden tray with a domed metal warming lid over a white plate. A pewter vase holds a red rosebud. The smell of a hearty meal makes my mouth water. As the woman sets down the tray, I point to my phone. She says in a soft voice, "Vegetarian lasagna, steamed green beans, and chamomile tea." "Gotta go," I say to Bernice. "Lunch arrived, and I want to eat it while it's hot. I'll check out what you said and leave if what you heard is right." "Take care of yourself," Bernice says in a concerned voice. When I hang up, I use my phone to look up Shore Lodge's website. On the home page is a photo of the older, elegant building on a bright, sunny day. "A place for healing," says the logo on the website. That sounds right. Offering specialized care geared to individual needs. I nod, fine with that. Clicking on a page about our highest level of care, I read that the second floor is a locked unit for residents who require a secure environment. I push the food tray away. There's more to Shore Lodge than my kids let on. 8. Rose. Rose, Max, and Dusty skipped stones at Seafarers Memorial Park in Millersville. After getting back from Cedar Island, Rose had picked up Max from her friend's house and they headed out for a picnic lunch. As she bent down to get a smooth gray stone from the beach, she made a face. Leaving her mom at Shore Lodge wasn't sitting right. Dusty let Buddy off leash and the dog was gnawing on a stick. In the distance, Mount Baker was barely visible behind rain clouds that had moved east. A whale-watching boat packed with spring break tourists left the marina, and the tour guide's amplified voice said, "You're in for a treat today. We're going to have a beautiful afternoon on the water, and I'll point out the natural highlights as we go along." Rose glanced at Buddy, who was chewing on a piece of driftwood, and said to her brother, "Shouldn't Buddy be leashed up? I don't think Mom would want him running loose. And the sign says dogs must be on leash. Not everyone likes dogs." Dusty grinned and threw up his hands. "It'll be fine. He won't run off." Just then, the dog took off, racing toward a family eating at a picnic table by a tall bronze statue honoring seafarers lost at sea. As Rose gave chase, she muttered to herself, "Mom wouldn't like this." Running as fast as she could, she called to Buddy, "Come!" But the smell of fast food was too tempting for the dog. Before Rose could get there, Buddy sat next to a young curly-haired boy and eyed his burger, begging for a bite. When the boy's burger fell to the ground, Buddy scarfed it up. The child wailed. "That dog should be on a leash," a woman wearing a wool hat and sitting at the picnic table said. She pushed up her huge sunglasses and glared. "Didn't you see the signs?" Mortified, Rose grabbed Buddy's collar. If this had happened to her son, she'd be ticked off too. "I'm so sorry. Your dog almost bit my son's fingers. Our lunch is ruined." "I apologize. Can I give you our sandwiches instead?" The woman waved Rose away. "No, and keep that dog away from us. Put him on a leash or I'll call animal control." Rose pulled the dog away and said to her son, who'd watched the confrontation with wide eyes, "We need to keep him on a leash." "Like Grandma does," Max said. "She wouldn't let Buddy bother people." "That's right," Rose said as they walked with the dog back to her brother. A young girl and her father making a sandcastle by the water's edge brought back memories of coming here with her dad, sending a jab of sadness to her gut. Farther down the beach, Dusty was stacking stones and making a tall, artistic cairn. He looked up as Rose approached. "Pretty cool, isn't it?" Rose raised her eyebrows, realizing her brother had missed the drama with the picnicking family. He'd always orbited around his own planet and wasn't about to change. Buddy and Dusty were both smiling, unaware they'd caused chaos. It was as if she'd taken 3 kids to the beach and Max was the responsible child. "It is," she held out her hand. "The leash, please." Max said, "How'd you stack them so they don't fall over?" "Time, patience, and skill," Dusty said, with a dash of creative genius. "Will you show me?" Max said. "Sure thing." He dug in his jeans pocket and handed her a red leash, which she clipped to the dog's collar, looping the other end around her wrist. The dog coughed, choked, and spit up a splinter. Dusty rubbed the dog's ears. "Ate too fast, eh? Had a stick for an appetizer, then a burger?" Rose rolled her eyes. It was amazing Jacqueline had trusted him with her power of attorney, given his carefree attitude. Maybe Mom decided he was ready for the responsibility. Dusty showed Max how to balance stones on top of each other to make a cairn, and Rose watched with a smile. Dusty straightened up. "Okay, bud, you try making one on your own. I'm going to talk to your mom for a bit." Moving down the beach a few feet with her brother, Rose kept her eye on her son, who was stacking stones. "You're so good with him. I appreciate it." Dusty glanced at Max. "He's a great kid. He could be a home builder and follow me into the business." "I think he'd like that," she said with a smile. Dusty said in a low voice, "We need to talk about what's next for Mom." Rose cocked her head. "What do you mean, what's next?" "We need to make some decisions about the store and her house." "We agreed to move her to Shore Lodge. I don't want to change anything else for the time being. Let's see how she does first." "I hear where you're coming from, but I need to get back to building houses. My life's been on hold since Dad died." She stepped back, stones crunching under her feet. "She's going to get better and come back." "Not going to happen," he said, looking over gray water. "You don't know that because you haven't been around like I have. Don't worry, I've got a plan." Rose stared at a sailboat entering the harbor, motoring slowly toward the marina's fuel dock. "It's much too soon to take such drastic measures." Dusty was quiet, giving off a simmering, ticked-off vibe. "She's helpless and vulnerable," she said. "We can't take advantage of her." Max came over, his face streaked with sand. "Who's helpless?" "Oh, sweetie," Rose said, ruffling his hair and not wanting him to hear their concerns. "We're talking about boring grown-up stuff." "I bet you're talking about Grandma," he said, looking from Rose to her brother. "Is she at that spooky lodge? I wouldn't want to be watched in my room, would you?" Rose tugged on her earlobe, searching for an acceptable answer. Dusty murmured to her, "Told you we shouldn't have brought him on the tour." Putting her hands on her knees, she bent to eye level with her son and told a partial truth. "I wouldn't want to be watched all the time. It would creep me out. Grandma's taken a short vacation, and we want her to come back feeling better, don't we, Dusty?" When Dusty coughed a few times, Max said, "Is it true, Uncle Dusty?" Dusty rubbed his left cheek. "Whatever your mom said. Now, go run and play." "'Kay." Max scrambled away to the water's edge. Looking at her brother, she said, "We're not making changes yet." "Don't get whipped out of shape about it," Dusty said, sounding exasperated. "Mom trusted me to make decisions for her. You've seen how tired she is, haven't you? She needs fewer worries keeping her up at night." "She's going to get better, I just know it." "You're jealous, aren't you?" he said with a smile. "Mom picked me for her power of attorney and not you. For once, you're not the favorite child." Rose winced, but he was right. She did wish her mom had asked her. "Don't make any major changes right away. You know it'd be wrong." Looking like he was deciding what to say, he turned his head to belch. Rose kicked the sand. Saying anything more was a waste of time. Chapter 9. Jacqueline. As a shaft of sunlight breaks through the clouds, I decide to enjoy the catered meal. There's no danger of my ending up in the secure second-floor unit. I might even join the grief support group tomorrow morning. I pull on my sheepskin coat to go for a walk. Outside, an emerald lawn sparkles with raindrops in contrast to the wild meadow. If I had to pick which camp to be in, I'd be an untamed meadow. So would my son, but my daughter is a manicured lawn type person. Amazingly, we all get along. The air smells fresh like spicy evergreen trees and briny air. I take a deep breath and come back to center. Opening my arms, I say, "Watch out, world, I'm coming back. I'll be stronger than ever." I'm about to head toward Cedar Channel when the middle-aged woman from the front desk comes outside and walks over to me. "Sorry to interrupt," she says. "If you're having a private moment, I was told to find you and let you know we're holding our daily happy hour with non-alcoholic wine, beer, cheese, and crackers. Would you like to join Dr. Henderson and the other guests?" I tilt my head, mulling over her offer. I'd planned to take a long walk, but that can wait. Happy hour isn't something I've done in recent months, more like sad hours, long-faced days, and sleepless nights. The idea of drinking a cold beer and nibbling on cheese is appealing, and I'm curious to meet the other guests. "Sure, that sounds like a fine idea. Lead the way." A gas fireplace blazes in the day room, providing warmth and making the room inviting, like a place I'd gather with friends. The room looks elegant and expensive and also comfortable. The walls are lined with bookcases filled with books we can borrow. This is my kind of place. I could spend days here reading by the fire. I settle onto a couch cushion and balance a small plate of rosemary crackers and white cheddar cheese on my knees as I sip a glass of beer. I'm surrounded by interesting people from all around the country. A retired college English professor wears her gray hair short and has a youthful complexion. A red-headed engineer with a thick mustache. A man with bad knees from installing flooring for 30 years. And a retired balding trumpet player who tells a story about playing in a circus band. 5 guests are here, so if their 12 rooms are fully booked, some people didn't join us, which I completely understand. At times, it's best to keep to yourself and share your thoughts with no one else, like I've been doing while I've been down in the dumps. The trumpet player says, "Margie the elephant went by the band and reached into an open instrument case with her trunk. She picked up a piccolo and swallowed it." Everyone's eyebrows go up, imagining that. People chuckle. He tugs on his earlobe and continues, "They checked for the instrument to come out the other end, and when it did, they gave it back to the player." We all laugh and then groan. It's refreshing to share a story and not be treated like a glass figure that could shatter. "True story," he says, looking around. "It really happened." "Uh-huh, sure it is." Suspecting he made it up, I glance at Dr. Henderson for his reaction. Dr. Henderson sits in front of a bay window, nursing a cup of tea. "That's a great tale," he says with a smile. "All stories are welcome here, real or imagined." I like him better in this room, where he isn't asking probing, intrusive questions. He strikes me as someone who watches and listens more than he takes part in conversations. The English professor turns to me and says, "What do you do?" "I'm just a lowly dirtworm working in a garden store in Millersville." I point out the window. That's the town across the water. Dr. Henderson says, "I think you're being modest. Your son said you run the biggest garden store in town." I'm surprised Dusty mentioned that. "That's right, I do." "What a big job that must be," Dr. Henderson says. I nod, liking him more after that comment. It's a huge responsibility managing an enterprise and making sure employees are taken care of. It feels wonderful to sit here with none of those worries front and center on my mind. I idly wonder what Dr. Henderson's advanced degree is in. He could be a concert pianist with a PhD for all I know, or a theology expert who wants to serve others. I snuff out my flight of fancy. Most likely, he's a shrink. The English professor leans in with a clear-eyed gaze. What's your advice about caring for roses? Mine get blight. They don't thrive like they should. She's hungry for pointers, which I'm glad to give out. At parties, people seek me out about their plant problems, which they desperately want solved in an instant. Rather like being a physician, I guess. Yes, says the engineer. My roses aren't performing well either. What do you suggest? Roses are particular, like when your great Aunt Annie comes to visit and expects the tea towels out and everything just so. They chuckle, so I continue. Don't overwater them. Reduce excess wetness or they get cranky. A ripple of laughter from the group encourages me. And space plants so they have good air circulation. Don't crowd them together like lovers or you'll have poor results. Plant them 3 to 5 feet apart. The engineer looks at his almost empty glass and sighs. It's my fault. I planted them too close together. I should have known that. His voice trails off and he sounds sad. I think they're dying. A tear trickles down his cheek. A thought occurs to me. Are we talking about roses or more than that? I'm not sure. Dr. Henderson breaks in before the group can really dig into the specifics of rose care or whatever we're actually talking about. We can't know everything, he says, and no one expects us to. We can rely on resources like talking with Jacqueline as an example. And I like your gardening metaphor because life is like a garden, isn't it? Where we must do our imperfect best to tend to the plants before us and, if one perishes, learn from that and move on. Plant another row. Don't you think, Jacqueline? Put on the spot, I'm uncomfortable. I rise. I hadn't expected a casual discussion to turn into a deep psychological, almost ecclesiastical dive. I set down my beer, which must have been non-alcoholic because I don't feel the slightest buzz. Nice to meet you all. I'm going to my room. Dr. Henderson says, will you be joining us for dinner in the dining room? His eye contact makes me feel like I'm naked and the group will see I'm a broken woman with a heavy heart. Thanks, but I'll skip it. I'll eat in my room. I hope you'll join our support group in the morning. It's on the schedule in your room. My hands break out in a sweat. I'm not sure I'm capable of sitting in a circle sharing feelings, and although he's being friendly, I feel pressured. The English professor smiles. We'd love for you to join us. It helped me. We don't bite, says the trumpet player, tugging on his ear. Fine, I say, my heart ticking hard. I'll see you then. Good night, everyone. Heading down the hall, a nagging feeling follows me. I regret promising to attend the support group and doubt I'll get any sleep with that hanging over me. Imagining talking about my husband's death, I shake my head. It won't be easy. But I'm here to climb out of my swamp of grief, so I'll be there in the morning. Someone howls. The sound is coming from the second floor. Hairs on my arms rise. When I open the door to my guest room, Albert's painting is back up, hanging on the wall. 10. Day 4. Dusty. In the morning, Dusty stood in the front yard of his mom's house waiting for delivery of a dumpster. He smiled, feeling pleased with himself. He'd been planning for months how to clear out his mother's place and spruce it up, make it shine. Now the day had finally come. A loud diesel truck backed up, beep, beep, beeping in his mom's concrete driveway and setting down a big green dumpster, making the ground shake. White letters on the huge rectangular metal container proclaimed, Barker's Dumpsters, we take away your problems. After dropping it off, the driver roared away in a cloud of diesel fumes. Dusty lit a cigarette and smoked, enjoying the ritual and pacing as he waited for his workers to show up. He'd removed the most valuable possessions from his mother's house, an antique armoire and a globe his dad liked, and taken them to his apartment. As a child, he'd spent hours with his father poring over all the places he could go if he had enough money when he grew up. The rest of the decent furniture and his mom's paperwork and personal items he'd put in storage. When he searched the house a few months ago, he'd found a safe deposit box key in a drawer and went to the bank, where at his suggestion his mom had added him as a signer. Entering the hushed safe deposit box room, he opened the metal box and found the deed to their house, their homeowner's insurance policy, and a few photos of their wedding day. He'd squinted at the images, Mom in a green frilly dress and Dad in a brown suit, grinning like they won the grand prize. He tried to imagine his parents as young adults signing on for the long haul of marriage. Nodding in admiration and wonder, he decided they were either brave or foolhardy to make that leap, or maybe both. For his sister, he took the pearl necklace and diamond pendant Mom never wore, the fragile teacup set Mom never used, and the ceramic bird-shaped salt and pepper shakers his sister liked. If his mother didn't come back to Millersville and Rose didn't want the little clay birds, he'd throw the reminders of his lonely childhood in the trash. Melinda Bunch, a neighbor, came out of her house wearing an artist's apron with paint splotches. Her purple hair was piled on top of her head. "What's going on?" Dusty looked away. Her eyebrow piercing was red and looked infected. He'd met her when he was at his mom's house in recent months and couldn't fathom why she'd ruined a pretty face with a metal hoop. Feeling defensive at being questioned, he said, "Not much." "Is your mom selling?" Melinda asked, gazing at the house like it was something she wanted to eat. She was a little too interested for his liking. Dusty didn't want nosy neighbors prying into his business, telling him what to do. He'd always hated having a boss giving orders, and that's why he worked for himself. "I'm fixing it up for my mom." "If she's interested in selling, I have a friend who's looking." "I'll let her know," he said, glancing at his boots so she couldn't see the truth in his eyes. "My assistant and her husband want a place like this with a big backyard, so they'll be first in line if she sells." The neighbor eyed him as if questioning his intentions. "There isn't enough time for a total remodel, is there? She said she'd only be gone a few days." He gritted his teeth, impatient with her probing. Staring at the bungalow, he thought back to when he lived there as an invisible member of a band of happy people. Mom, Dad, and Rose were upbeat, hardworking, and smart, making him feel like he didn't belong. He'd been sure he was adopted or switched at birth in the hospital. "It won't take long," he said. "I'm in the business, so I know what I'm doing." Melinda's eyes lit up and she inched forward, putting a finger to her chin as if she was fascinated. Eyeing his biceps, she said, "That's right. You're a contractor, aren't you? Come over later and I'll show you what I'd like done to my place." He stepped back to put more space between them. She sounded like she was interested in more than carpentry and he wasn't taking the bait. She wasn't his type and remodels were a pain in the butt. "Thanks, but I specialize in building new homes, not remodels. This job is a one-off for my mother. She means so much to me, I wanted to do something special for her." Melinda looked crestfallen. She pointed and said, "If you ever change your mind, I'm right over there." He eyed the sagging roofline and peeling paint of the 1920s home and saw a money pit of deferred maintenance with an owner who would distract him while he worked. No way in hell he'd touch that project. "Okay." "Please tell your mother hello from me. She's amazing, so much energy." Dusty grunted, wanting her to leave. "She was, until my dad passed away." A blue four-door older sedan parked across the street and two broad-shouldered men in brown coveralls got out. They leaned against the car and smoked, glancing at his mom's house. Rescued by the arrival of his workers, Dusty said, "Those are my guys. I better go talk to them. See you later." "Toodles," Melinda said, wagging her fingers goodbye as she went to her house. She flashed an impish smile. "Remember, I'm just right over there. Bring your tool belt." When her back was turned, Dusty rolled his eyes. An older neighbor, Mr. Fracas, stood at the large living room window of his brick rambler. He crossed his arms, watching. A retired high school science teacher, he'd been cranky when Dusty was young because he didn't want his grass ruined by kids running around. Not much happened on the quiet street, so anyone with time on their hands was eagle-eyed. Nothing went unnoticed, making today's mission almost impossible to pull off without public scrutiny. Dusty called the men over. "Let's get going. We're clearing out the house today. Toss anything you see in the dumpster." "The dumpster?" a red-faced man said, tossing his cigarette on the lawn. "Yup," Dusty said, showing the men inside. A beefy man said, "If we want something, can we set it aside and take it?" Dusty gestured to the threadbare plaid couch his dad sat on each night reading the paper. His dad had saved him from who knows what fate when he was growing up. Fueled with anger about not fitting in, he was tempted to start fires or key cars. Instead, his dad emerged from the perfect people trio and came home from work earlier to toss a ball with Dusty or make him a snack. But keeping the ratty old sofa wouldn't bring his dad back. He coughed away a lump in his throat. "Take whatever you want." The rosy-cheeked man said, "For free?" Dusty shrugged. The dated, dinged-up furniture would be replaced by higher-end items from Dania Furniture, a new look for a new life. "For free," he said. "We need it emptied out." The other worker licked his lips. "Let's see what we got here." Craving a cup of coffee, Dusty said, "I'm heading out for a few minutes. I'll be back to check on your progress." As he strode to his truck, he muttered under his breath, "Dad, I'm doing this for you. Mom will be taken care of. She's in a better place." His throat closed tight. Dusty wiped away a tear before anyone saw it. His rock-solid support was gone, but he'd build the subdivision and name it in his father's honor. Before he could get into his truck, Mr. Fracas hurried out of his Rambler and waved him down. "Hold on, I want to talk with you." Dusty sighed. He hadn't been fast enough. First Melinda Bunch and now Mr. Fracas, who'd given him a failing grade in high school earth science class. He should have hurried to his truck, slammed the door, and taken off. With his hand on the door, he said, "Hello, Mr. Fracas. How are you today?" Adjusting his black-rimmed glasses, the neighbor said, "What the devil's going on over there, and where's your mother?" With a sigh, Dusty said, "She's staying on Cedar Island for a few days. We're clearing it out so she'll have fewer memories of my dad, give her a fresh start." "Why so fast? What's the hurry? And a dumpster? She liked her house the way it was, told me so last week, as a matter of fact." "I'm just trying to help her while she's away. I think she'll like it when she gets home. It's a surprise." Mr. Fracas nodded. "That's thoughtful of you. Mighty big change, though." Dusty shifted on his feet. "It is. Listen, nice talking with you, but I've got to get going." He climbed in his truck and started the engine. Mr. Fracas knocked on the window and put his palm against it, leaving a mark on the glass.